Is this eve teasing or is this sexual harassment? The young and bold Jasmeen Patheja has mobilized thousands of volunteers around the country to confront this issue, forcing India to take notice and make way for the fearless woman of today. Jasmeen, please join me. So, Jasmeen, you started a movement called Blank Noise as a public art project. So, can you tell us about how you came up with this?
Yeah, I started Blank Noise when I was in my final year at art college, and I was coming from this space as a young art student, just in terms of how does art engage with society, can art heal, can art be confrontational, and how can art be built collectively and in a more participatory way, and how can an artist be a facilitator, and what is the role of the artist in the process of social transformation. And while I was engaging with these ideas, there was also daily experiences of street harassment, and if it wasn't daily, it was the fear or the threat of, you know, the infinite possibilities of when you could experience it, by whom you could experience it. So I think that put together, and not really having a space to address it in terms of the attitude around me was, you know, don't make a big deal out of it.
Right.
It's just eve teasing, or how come it's happening only to you? Or, and then realizing that actually most of my friends are not walking the streets, or if they are, they're walking in groups. So there was a lot of denial around the fact that it's even an issue.
So what does Blank Noise mean, and how did that come about?
It's a coming together of something that we don't give voice to, and yet it's acknowledging that it is something that is shaping us, it is defining us. And the fact that every day most of us make these crucial decisions in front of our closets, deciding that we can wear this or we can't wear this, and every decision is around where we're going, what time we're going, how many of you would go out without your phone, and why not? So just to become aware that we make decisions every day to make ourselves safe. Rather, can we ask, how can our cities be made safe?
You call your volunteers action heroes, and you came up with these very neat definitions. You gave them, and there's something called a step-by-step guide to unapologetic walking that I found particularly interesting. So I just thought you could share that with the audience.
I have it here on the phone. The step-by-step guide to unapologetic walking. It's to walk very, very slowly. Walk without your phone. Walk without your eyes fixed to the ground. Walk in the middle of the pavement. Walk with your chin a little raised. Walk without your bag. Walk without your sunglasses. Walk with your shoulders leaned back. Walk looking at passers-by. Walk alone. Walk alone. Walk at 5 a.m., 3 a.m., 2 p.m., noon, midnight, 8 p.m., 3 p.m. Walk humming a song. Walk whistling. Walk daydreaming. Walk smiling. Walk swinging your arms. Walk with a skip. Walk alone. Walk wearing clothes you always wanted to, but could not because you thought you might be asking for it. Walk without a dupatta. Walk without your arms folded. Walk without a clenched fist. Walk smiling. Walk smiling. Walk smiling. Thank you.
And they sound simple, but I'm sure everyone would relate to not doing one of those for a certain reason, you know.
Yeah. Well, Blank Noise is a community of action heroes. Over time, so it's not like we set out this set of rules of, you know, what is an action hero, but rather we arrived at it through the response that action heroes had through participation. So little things like action heroes would say, now I'm walking in the middle of the pavement and I'm getting my space. Or now I'm not thinking twice about what I have to wear.
You've used technology and the internet a lot to reach your audience, and perhaps over the past 10 years, you've reached thousands of volunteers around the country. So can you tell me how that's been?
The first phase involved actually workshops with the 9 students at Srishti who were willing to engage in this conversation about their experiences. After, you know, just experiencing the issue from 9 other lives, there was this question of where is the public, how do we what form of media do we use to engage with the public? And I found myself carrying my camera wherever I went, and photographing the person who I felt intimidated by and harassed by, and then sharing these photographs on a blog. It created this debate where just in terms of, who are the kinds of harassers? What about that person who's sitting at a coffee shop and who's nudging and poking his friend and wants to have a conversation with you, but you don't like it, but he's very different from the person who's groped you. So
what are the different levels?
Exactly, and how do we understand the range of public interactions? So what the web did was it helped define the issue. There were lots and lots of people who just came in and argued and counter-argued, and that collective,
energy maybe.
Yeah, that collective defining is what is what blank noise. It's a collective space which is not necessarily one voice either. It's just plural disagreements, but it's shaping and collectively having a conversation about the issue. So the web has enabled that.
And in addition to that, you've had a lot of live street interactions, and I wanted to start with something that you called idle standing.
Well, we would invite action heroes to be idle in public spaces. So let's say it's Bangalore's Brigade Road. What would it take for an action hero, for anyone to just go there and be purposeless, without your phone, without looking at the time, and make eye contact? In constant participation, action heroes realized that there was a difference in the way they started relating to the street and to themselves. One is that the street itself became more familiar. They had a very different association with it. And over time, we started doing the same action in different cities.
But did this generate any conversation with people on the streets? How did people react to something like this?
Mixed responses. In 2006, we had done this blogathon saying that let's just open up an event that would invite testimonials of street harassment. And we were quite surprised by the response to something as open-ended as this. We had just hundreds and hundreds of testimonials floating the blogosphere. There was a kind of mass catharsis. And why I mention this is because what that did was that it created, you looked at the web as this sudden new safe space to be able to share fearlessly. And how that goes back to the street actions is that we would translate these testimonials that were shared on the blogs to the local languages and translate that into letters. So it would be XYZ's experience addressed to a stranger, and the stranger would receive this letter by this woman standing idle in a very intimate eye exchange kind of way, not like a pamphlet which was being distributed, but really a very intimate exchange. And that letter would say, if you know what I'm talking about, come and join me, I'm that girl by the railing, or I'm that girl standing here. So again, we had varied responses. It was always participatory. We've had some people tear up the letter and saying, what rubbish have you given us? Or we've had some families just join in with children and just in solidarity. Not everyone's willing necessarily to engage in that discussion because it is painful.
You have something else called I Never Ask For It, which is a very interesting project where you've actually asked women from around the country to send you pieces of clothes. Yeah.
So I Never Ask For It really is about giving that one garment you wore when you experience sexual harassment of any kind in any space, and giving it with that attitude that you don't deserve it. And right now these garments are being collected. We're relaunching this campaign actually towards the end of the year, and really getting it to travel across India and installing it in public sites. And I'd like to see these garments come from across India.
And you've had all sorts of, it's not just mini skirts and shorts. You've had a sari, and you've had
burqas, everything.
Right, so that's a very strong statement.
Thanks.
And is it a very aggressive interaction?
No.
Or they can just be passively hanging out?
It's not aggressive or passive either. It's somebody taking agency. It's somebody claiming citizenship. It's somebody setting a new rule for public behavior. It's somebody who's choosing to not necessarily cross her elbows and walk the street and look down. It's somebody who's challenging herself and confronting herself rather than confronting the environment alone. She's also confronting her own fears in doing so. So I don't see it as aggressive, but it is a personal challenge.
And you're saying, herself and she, and so I'm curious to know how many male volunteers you have.
There have always been men in the project. And again, in the beginning, there was, I think it's been one of our challenges from the start has been, how do we see this as an issue that concerns men and women rather than frame this as a woman's issue. And we've always had guys in the project. And again, they've had a shifting relationship in terms of the issue itself, where a lot of them would join in saying we want to do something about the issue, and then to realize that this, to arrive at how is this their issue.
There was another very interesting project which is all over Facebook and social media called the Safe City Pledge. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the Safe City Pledge came around straight after December 16th, after the Delhi gang rape. One of my immediate concerns was that, okay, once again there's a horrific rape, and once again there are going to be circles of blame, people pointing fingers at each other, and and it's going to be a heated argument on TV, and then it's going to die out. Safe City Pledge is really focusing that we step outside of blame and take ownership and responsibility of the issue. So our message from the start has been that this is really every person's issue, and Safe City Pledge is really about that each of us has the ability to influence change. You as a mother can influence change. Somebody else as a journalist can influence change. Little change, small steps to big change. For example, we've had a gynecologist take a pledge saying, I pledge to get rid of moral judgment over my patient's decision towards her body. That's his pledge. Or a journalist taking a pledge that I pledge to, put more emphasis on the, I pledge to not use the word victim. I pledge to use the word survivor. What's concerning is that there's this paranoia around it's not safe, don't go out. But how do we unclench our fists? How do we unlearn fears? How do we choose to really claim our city in a way that we assert our citizenship?
Another one of your interactions that is the most interesting to me that has gone viral recently is called Talk to Me, and I'm sure at least half of you over here have had it shared on your Facebook pages, and it was to turn something called the rapist lane, which is close in Yelahanka, to the safest lane. So can you please tell me about that?
That lane, so I was at Srishti doing a 1-month action hero workshop where we decided that we treated this as a pilot study to see what would locality-specific action hero networks do. And the Yelahanka action heroes are Srishti students, so it was that 1-month period where they did this action hero workshop, and they did a range of things where we started with mapping. And mapping the locality and figuring out places that they considered unsafe or places that they had experienced harassment in. And while this was going on, I suddenly kept hearing this word rapist lane, which was extremely disturbing. We chose upon that, and we chose that lane, and we realized that what made it unsafe was the fact that actually there were no street lights after dark. I mean, they were visibly there, but they were not lit. There was actually no commercial activity at all. There was just a cart going out at 4 in the afternoon. There were just empty buses parked, and again the infinite possibilities of what it means to pass an empty bus, and again that kind of alert signal that we get, and the fact that after dark a lot of men would just come there to have a drink, and it was also this harassment zone. Therefore, just the nature of it, the fact that there were no lights allowed a certain kind of freedom to behave that way. The Yelahanka Action Heroes participated in this event called Talk to Me, which was really about unclenching the fist, unlearning fear, and being willing to engage in a conversation. Like, a conversation requires vulnerability, it requires openness, and it requires a real collaboration. Each action hero had to sit with a stranger, with a complete stranger, over a period of an hour with chai and some
1 hour?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a very long conversation.
So that's long enough to not have a frivolous conversation and just talk about how are you. And
so what exactly were they talking about?
A range of things. There was somebody who was talking about religion. There was somebody else who was talking about family. Somebody else just talking about how he wants a girlfriend. And there was an overcoming of inhibition, of fear in that process.
And at the end, I think the action hero gifted a flower. The beautiful photos of that. You've been doing this volunteer-driven initiative for 10 years, past 10 years. But also, I know that you want to be an independent woman. I'm just curious to know, how does one make ends meet when you're financially? If I've received a fellowship, I've directed the funds to the project, or if somebody has just written in saying they'd like to support it. So we've had not often, but sometimes we've had people just sending in support, and that has happened by surprise. But at this point, we're just looking at setting it up as an NGO and putting structure in place. Wonderful. Jasmeen, we are all cheering you on. Congratulations. But I'm not going to let you go yet. There's a little surprise. The Quickie with Namu Kini round. Okay. We know you're from Calcutta, so tell us the truth. Is it Rasgulla or Kesri Baat?
Rasgulla.
Morning or night person?
always fantasizing about being a morning person, but actually night person.
You've always wanted to grow up and be a
artist.
Suitcase or backpack?
I have to take care of my back at this point, but I'd love to travel with that spirit of the backpack.
Your favorite film?
But I'd say Monsoon Wedding for now.
Eat to live or live to eat?
I should try eating to live.
Your role model?
I think immediately it's my grandmom because she's in her 80s and has a spirit with which she just enjoys every minute, and she's inspiring. Yeah.
Are you an artist or activist?
I don't think you can separate that.
Are you fearless?
I'm interested in confronting it. So again, it's always a process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jasmeen Patheja, everybody.